So, here we go. A couple of new things / announcements. Right. I don't know. This is intrusive. There's one too many microphones for me to feel really comfortable with. But I'm trying to go for the ASMR kind of stereo thing. I brought my buddy for a couple of reasons. So I'd like you all to imagine, if you could, with me. It's a lovely, warm, breezy Sunday afternoon. I go to this would be much more appropriate if I said I go to my fridge and there's no Coke. Oh, let's take care of this real quick. What's up? I go to my fridge and I'm out of milk. I go to Amazon Fresh and they're not going to be able to deliver milk until the next day. And I'm fine with that usually, but on Monday mornings, I really need coffee on Monday mornings. By the way, going for old school Tonight Show vibes on the color of the curtain behind me tonight. Anyway, so I have no. Let's turn these a little bit more towards me here. That's probably the smart thing to do. Not enough mics. I need like 3 or 4 more mics. So I decide I will go to the Safeway. There's a Safeway a couple of blocks from my house. I bump in my nose. I don't have the right shaped nose to have mics like this so close to me. So it's warm, Sunday afternoon. Hasn't been raining, or at least in the past couple of days. And I think, well, this will be a great opportunity to, go out for a scoot. Get some milk at the Safeway. Did I say it's like a couple? It's more than a couple blocks. It's like, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile away, something like that. So I hop on the scooter. And those of you who've followed my scooting adventures, I've had a few issues with it in the past. Almost always they were because of rain. Right. So I wasn't thinking about that too much. And so I'm headed to the Safeway. Everything's fine. And you can see like right now, just like every one of my joints, everywhere there's a joint, there's a scab. Like everywhere there's a place for me to have a scab, there's a scab. Like every joint. My right knee is really bad. I'm not going to show you my right knee. So I get all the way to the Safeway. drivers are being extremely considerate, as they usually are. I don't usually have a problem with drivers. I'm going about 20 miles an hour, I think. I can't really. The worst thing is like when you want to cough, but you can't cough. If I were to cough, I would have to like be rolling on the floor in pain if I actually coughed. I sneezed yesterday and it was not good. Anyway, so I pull into the Safeway, as I have a lot before. It's not just a Safeway, but it's primarily a Safeway. And there's just a little concrete lip going to the little ascending flood, whatever the heck it is, that to make sure the parking lot doesn't flood. A lip I have traveled over before, but they've been doing some work to the Safeway, and they rebuilt this lip, and apparently the new lip is, I don't know, a centimeter higher than the old lip. Not enough for me to notice, but enough for my front wheel. So it's one of these scooters, right? Like that. So, there's a wheel here, right? This wheel hits the lip. I'm standing on the board part of the scooter, holding onto the top here. The scooter just totally stops and flips on its side and kind of catapults me onto the asphalt of the Safeway parking lot. And this is exactly the same thing that happened when it was raining when I went to the park. And this is back in COVID days. I don't know if you all remember COVID. But it was raining and I scooted to the park and there were some people on the path. And I could have scooted around them on the path, but because of COVID, I was like, no, you know what? Just go off the path and go around them. Give them more space. And looked like solid grass when I went off the path, but it turned out to be, mud, and the front wheel just sunk, and the same thing happened. But that time, it threw me into mud, grass and mud, which was very embarrassing. And it hurt, and I like the scrapes got tons of mud in them, right? But not mostly just damaged my ego. But this time, I'm thrown onto asphalt. Now I have the presence of mind in those, 2 seconds or whatever it takes between realizing that this thing is happening and then realizing I'm going to impact asphalt, to throw my hands up and make sure that my head, which I am going to admit right now, I was not wearing a helmet. I don't even own a helmet that fits me. Anyway, so thrown onto the asphalt, arms up, I sort of pull my head back because I recently had, the thought that went through my mind was, oh no, I just had bonding work done. I don't want to hit my face. Oh no, not the moneymaker. I promise you, I'm not trying to be dramatic in the way that I'm moving. So I just kind of let myself land on my shoulder and ribs here. And the breath gets knocked out of me. And I'm in kind of an unfathomable, well, I'm sure, People have been in a lot more pain than that. But for a few seconds, it felt like, for a few seconds, your body or my body didn't know quite how serious it was. It actually reminded me of this instance that I've talked about before, where I slipped on ice off brick steps and landed smack on my back. And for about 30 seconds, I couldn't move below my neck. And I thought I was paralyzed. Like, I genuinely was like, I'm paralyzed. Like, I could not move my arms. I've learned since then that that is not uncommon. If Nick is here, I'm sure he could probably back me up. You can have like a shock to your spine that then sort of stuns the nerves, I guess, is what it does. And that is what happened in that case. And I couldn't move my arms or my legs for 30 seconds. I have no idea how long it was. It could have been 15 seconds. It could have been a minute. It probably wasn't more than a minute. But that was worse, right? But this time I was just in tons of pain and having trouble breathing. So I was like kind of hyperventilating. And I was bleeding a lot, like pretty profusely. This is not like it's been a few days, and this is not, bad. Looking at it in retrospect, my knee is worse, but my elbow, which ironically you can barely tell, my elbow was bleeding the most. All of my hands, like the joints of my hands, they had kind of turned white and then, started bleeding. And I'm there on the asphalt in the ride-up ramp to the Safeway, sort of rolling around in pain. My scooter is upright, which I remember my scooter was upright. I don't know how. It doesn't stand upright on its own. I wonder if somebody picked it up. That could have happened. I don't know. But anyway, people came around and were offering me alcohol wipes and little Band-Aids, little kids' Band-Aids. No masks. And I was just like, no. And they were like, oh, you look like you're okay. And I'm like, I don't care about the cuts. Like, I wasn't thinking about the cuts. The cuts hurt, but I was like, I realized I couldn't inhale very deeply at all. And so I knew, I don't know if I knew this, but I felt like the best course of action was just for me to get home as quickly as possible, because I figured things were going to get worse as inflammation set in, etc. So I scooted home. I don't really remember scooting home without incident. And then in my sort of weird stunned state, which I guess I was still like slightly stunned, and still this talking is not particularly easy. I don't want to get costochondritis. I have a bruised, contused rib in the upper left. I don't no partially collapsed lung or anything like that. However, because I'm breathing so shallowly, obviously, you need to, normally you'd get a spirometer or something like that, something to encourage you to take deeper breaths so that you don't get pneumonia. Anyway, I get home and I proceed to put a steroid ointment all over my cuts because I just wasn't thinking straight. And take a bunch of Advil. For those in the UK, I don't know if you have Advil, but it's Motrin. It's ibuprofen, right, as opposed to acetaminophen. Um, so took a bunch of that. I couldn't really lay down. Laying down was really hard. I had to kind of sit up and just kind of support my back. Oh, fuck, can't do that. can't can't reach whatever is over there. Can't do it. Anyway, so within an hour or two, yeah, I was in more. Well, it was a different kind of pain. I had more pain on impact. Then it got better, and then it got worse, and now it's just like sleeping is very, very difficult. Not sleeping very well. Any pain medication I take wears off after a few hours. I roll onto my side or whatever, and the moment I roll onto my side, I wake up. So anyway, that was my Sunday, and my job, especially now, especially remotely. This is not my job. Holy shit! It's raining. Is it raining? It's raining. It came out of nowhere. Anyway, for my job, I have to talk a lot. And so, that was kind of exhausting. So I was sort of debating whether or not I should do this tonight. And I thought, well, if I do two mics and do it like ASMR, then I don't have to talk so loud. Listen to Olevi. My ex-wife is who lives very close to me. Is a dermatologist. So yeah, she has checked me out. So it's all good. But I do appreciate the thoughts. Let me say hi to everybody. So I didn't really have the energy to do like any fancy light setup tonight. I do have, and I think so. For the extravaganza, which Nicholas won, by the way. Congratulations to Nicholas. I sent him the prize money. I sent, I think, 2 of the 3. I think I just haven't sent Xava her money yet. Because I wasn't sure about an email, and then she got back to me. But I'll do it tonight. But anyway, Colorful Dreams, Pavi, Q. How are you all doing? Q, how's the house? I saw a picture of you at the house, and it looked like a really cool house. Looked like it had a lot of space. Looked like you could have guests come crash. Hmm. Oh, you're right. So SJ is coming into town tomorrow. And she has already given me an ultimatum that she will not get on a scooter with me, or I have 2 scooters, right? Unless I have a helmet. So I have ordered a helmet, and hopefully it'll fit. But I've yet to ever hit my head. This is tempting fate, me saying that. I am interested in any questionable life hacks, Pavi. Makes life interesting. And I do wear a seatbelt, Q. Just not this part. And I've started wearing this part more now. For my kids. Hey, Leela Brun. Oh, and congrats, Leela Brun. Hi, KJ. Oh, wow. Look at this. So you twisted your ankle, maybe popped something out, and once your painkillers kicked in, you popped it back in. I thought you could only do that with your shoulder, but I'm sure you could do it with lots of things. Hi, Lisa Shabana. How are you doing? I got your email. I do want to do people reading other people's stories, but that is going to require a bit of coordination. So I think we shoot for next week for that. I think it's a good idea. How does that sound to you all? I have to do everything slowly and dramatically. But just think of it like ASMR. This looks so much better. I had tons of asphalt in there. I had to spend some time cleaning that out. I can't ban the scooter though. It's like the most fun that I have. That's what the thing that I do that I enjoy the most is I put the camera on and scoot around the neighborhood, scoot to a park or a creek. There are several in the area. And then just kind of walk around looking for dumb birds. The birds aren't dumb. I mean, I realize like I'm not taking any award-winning photos, but for me, it's like I got a picture of a cardinal a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And I was very pleased. But these are the things that I think as you get older, you get more of an appreciation for little victories like that. The elusive cardinal. Yeah. There is a really big crane that hangs out at one of the creeks that I go to. I've seen it 3 times now, and all 3 of them have been times when I didn't have my camera. So I want to get in the habit of always having a camera. And let me tell you, since we're talking about cameras, which I enjoy talking about camera, I'm going to have to get it. Hold on. I'll be right back. Hold on. Don't go nowhere. I'm coming back. Coming back with a camera. I've just been like plopping down on the couch and like not moving. I have to lift anything heavier than a Coke can with my right hand. Anyway, so this is first of all, I don't know if you can see what I can't hold this with my right hand or with my left hand. I got to do it with my left hand. My thunder. This is a. I took a. It's actually a GH5. I used to shoot videos on this camera back in the day. Like the videos that I shot in like 2017 were shot on a GH5, which is what this is. My old GH5 body. Ergonomically, it's my favorite camera that I've owned. But image quality wise for video, it's not as good as either the Blackmagics or the Canon that I use for my actual videos. But anyway, this is a 100 to 400 lens. And what I did was I had a cage on one of my Blackmagics with this wooden handle, small rig handle. Look at this. It's got a cold shoe in the top of the handle and a little magnetized hex key in there. Really lovely. And you can rotate the collar on this, because normally what you would get on this is you would see like that, right? Imagine this handle wasn't there. And you would mount this to your tripod here because the lens is considerably much heavier than the camera. But the lens allows you to rotate for tripod mode or for portrait mode. But I use it and mounted this handle here for extra stability because it's a 100 to 400 lens, right? So it extends out quite a bit there. Look at that, it's pretty. You can see my gridded light dome. It's a 100 to 400 lens. You can see like the weight distribution on that. But because it's on a GH5 sensor, it's a 400 to 800 millimeter equivalent, which means, when I extend it fully and point it at the moon folds about a quarter of the frame, maybe a fifth of the frame. It's literally a small telescope. But that's not actually what I wanted to show you. What I wanted to show you was this thing, which I went with the strap that came with the camera for so long, but then I went ahead and invested in this Peak Design strap, which ironically is made out of and feels a lot like a seatbelt, which I don't like seatbelts. And it's super, super easy to adjust. It has a grippy side here and then a smooth side here. It just like, it is a dream strap. Fuck, I can't really put it on now, can I? I guess I can, like that, yeah. It is so comfortable. Like I could wear that forever. So I just throw it on like this and it hangs right at my hip. It doesn't flop around or anything. The thing about these Peak Design straps is they all have this kind of universal. Let's see if we can get a better view of this. Go over here. These Peak Design straps all have this universal connector system, which you can see right here. Right? And it's just like a little thing that you slide. It comes out like that. Comes with a bunch of these. They're super, super tough. Apparently they can hold up to like 200 pounds. I'm not going to test that out. But it's so, it's really elegant. An elegant strap solution. And so much better than when I was carrying this around using the strap that came with the camera. So I have no excuse. Got to take it with me everywhere I go now. But that's why my Instagram feed went to lots of pictures of birds and flowers and crap like that. Because of that lens, that camera, which the GH5, man, is not easy. The GH5 came out in 2016, 2017. It's still a wonderful video camera. The stabilization is fantastic. The video, the stills aren't the best, right? It's only 20 megapixel. But, you do RAW. 20 megapixel, that's all for Instagram, it's all anyone needs more. It's overkill. And you get the lovely dual stabilization. So you can't use... You have to use super quick exposures if you want a bird, right? But anyway, that's honestly, is like what kept me sane throughout my pandemic isolation, has been going around taking pictures of stuff. So I will have a helmet, hopefully a recovered rib fairly soon. And I believe SJ is bringing her Nikon, so we'll scoot to various places and even more pictures of birds and the like. This is ugly, man. This is not a pretty one, is it? Mafarath, how are you doing? Yes, let's see. I got a... Hi, Amy. I'm good with that, There's some climbing involved. There's some hiking involved. But the scooter gets me the majority of the way. As far as I can take the scooter, I will. And all these national parks say no motorized vehicles. But you know what? I don't play by the rules. I don't do what the man tells me to do. I'm a grown-ass person. If I want to take my electric scooter into a park, I'm going to do it. Hey, Ava. Sorry, Ava. I'm sending you the money tonight. Put some interest on it as well. Hey, Carolyn and Warp Raven and LQ. There is Gavin. Yeah, I don't know. The elbow actually looks... It's like the... Oh, I guess it's not bad. Yeah, the only thing is the rib. All right, I gotta come down to the bottom here. I'm gonna spend all night. Oh, hi, Chels, and good night, Chels. Wow. That's great, I think, if you're comfortable with it. Oh, Levy, how are you doing? Slim, thick, skinny queen. Ramona. Yeah, it does look like a press meeting, doesn't it? No, that is sun damage. If you're talking about... Yeah, I have like some sun damage here. I'm going to have to do what they call it, a Jesner peel. Get rid of that. All right, I'm skipping down to the bottom. So if anyone asked questions that they want answered, you're going to need to... Hey, Isra. I caught Isra because of her avatar or lack of avatar, which last time we spoke, Isra, you told me you had a picture as an avatar. It's been weeks, and it's still just a pink eye. Pink eye. Is that a joke? Are you intentionally making a joke? Yeah, this is the point. Gotta get down to the bottom. Oh, I've been in that womb chair quite a bit. It is an electric scooter. It is a 9-bot. They're both the same ones, pretty much 9-bot max. I originally got it because I only live a couple of miles away from work. And I wanted to stop driving to work. But then we, didn't need it for work anymore. Thick. I did say thick. Aw, that's sweet, Q. Voice Quills. I don't think I've seen you before. Nice to see you. Oh God. So I did see an article recently for another flying car. Flying cars will perpetually be around the corner, and it'll just be like next decade. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce your name, so I'm going to call you Victor. Do I ever consider going back into video game design business? Well, let me answer that with this. So, I was looking back over games that I had worked on that had really bad ratings. And this was one of them. And then I noticed that it was our own Carolyn Petit. Rated a game that I worked on very, very low, which I forgive her. Excuse me. Oh, okay. Well, still, then that's even worse. You didn't get paid. But I worked on a lot of games in that period of time that warranted ratings like this, if not, worse. Kind of, for a while, our job was, what is the new hot IP coming out? And then, can we make, like, a crappy game with the same engine that we've used for, like, all these other games? And we can get, like, a couple of the voice actors, maybe, and just spit something out. And that's what we were doing. And that was at a time when there was only... It's funny because sometimes I'll go on Moby Games and I'll look at some of the games that I had worked on, and I'll see, like, there'll be like 100 names attached to it. But they always list the names of the publisher and in addition to the developer. Until, well, no, that's not true. I was at a larger developer early on, but then I was at, but for the majority of my career, my video game design career, I worked at developers that were like 20 people. And of those 20 people, like we would have 2 or 3 games in production simultaneously. So really, maybe like eight of us were full time working on a game at a time. And sometimes when the publisher would come visit, we would, have our friends come in and sit in the empty desks that we had in the warehouse type space that we had in at the time it was what's now known as Weston, which is basically just West Fort Lauderdale. Speaking of which, this is a terrible building collapse that happened on Miami Beach that we fear is indicative of a larger problem. But one of the things, no, it's not a dream. There are parts of it that are cool, but look, I actually, my involvement in that game wasn't actually the development. Like we would put, it's like we were kind of padding out games with names as well. So like generally, if I'm listed as associate producer on a game, that might mean that like I wrote a couple lines of dialogue or something. Or did like 2 days work on the game or something like that, right? We were just literally like trying to find ways to justify whatever it was that we were charging the publisher to do this game. So yeah, it's horrible about what's happening in Miami right now. What's really kind of getting to me about it is the way it's being covered, right? So there's almost 150 people are missing. And by missing, we're I mean, it's fairly clear that those people did not make it. And yet I'm getting updates on my phone 2 or 3 times a day saying a body was found rising. The death toll now has risen to 15. And now there's 149 missing. And to me, that feels like, wow, they're trying to, like that seems like a not, I guess not unethical, but just like a not respectful way to cover this. It's just a way to be able to be like what are they going to do? Like, every time they find a body, there's going to be another ping sent to my phone through all 140. And the hope, obviously, is that they find people in an air pocket, people who somehow survived, or people who, were there but went somewhere else. But people who were there who went somewhere else, it's been days now. I think we would know if that had happened. Unfortunately, right now, obviously it makes me incredibly sad. But I think the reasonable assumption here is that the remainder of those people, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, that they're going to not be alive anymore. And so to have the news cycle be another body found, and then 6 hours, another body found, and then, the next day, another body found. It's kind of grist for the mill. Feels like grist for the mill. Yeah, exactly, Mafarath. I agree with this, Carolyn. Hopefully, like the idea of being trapped, right, is just terrible. I don't know. I heard that Biden was going to visit. It seems like it's going very slow. I don't understand the specifics of it. But it does seem to me like they could there's not maybe the resources being devoted to it that there should be. But I don't know enough about it. It just feels horrible to me. I don't know anyone who lived in that building, but I do know people. Yeah, a lot of this, like the near misses, right? Like, um, yeah, I went and I ended up falling asleep at a friend's house. Um, I went out, to a party and I couldn't drive home, so I said to my car, whatever it was. And what are the broader implications there? If I lived in a building built in the 80s on Miami Beach right now, I would be extremely, extremely uncomfortable. I'd be very reluctant to believe the reassurances of any politicians, regardless of what contractor they had standing nearby them, assuring everyone that. Oops. Well, I'm not questioning. I'm not questioning at all the dedication of the rescue workers who are there and who are working. I guess I just wonder, and maybe there's a critical mass, right? And they can't having more won't do any good. But I guess I just wonder if there couldn't be more people working, like if there are more resources. But anyway, so my recollection is that, and yeah, there was in 2018, there was apparently an inspection done on this building, which is Surfside. So Miami Beach, oh, my hand hurts. It's a long strip. And when most people think of Miami Beach, what they think about is the South Beach, they call it, right? South of the sort of interstate that goes over to it. That's where the majority of the Deco district is, and most of the nightclubs, and most of like the most of the social gathering places, let's say in the hotels. And then the northern part is more lots of high-priced condos. My my boss at the time that Lost came out, right? Lived in a condo on Miami Beach, in North Miami Beach. So anyway, so my recollection, like when Andrew hit Miami, right? There were so many buildings that were not up to code that they were just completely flattened. And I remember there was this community called Country Walk, which was very close to where my ex-wife, the dermatologist who now lives up here, where she lived, it was very close to that. And I remember thinking, wow, the houses in Country Walk look really cute and quaint. Every house in Country Walk got completely flattened by Andrew, and it resulted in upping the building codes. And my ex, who was my girlfriend at the time, she lived in like a concrete poured 2-story Miami Vice-ish looking house, which has now been, I think, converted into like a wildlife center or something. Let me see something here. I can do this because no longer lives there. And what's weird is I remember the address because I would drive there. I would drive there all the time, and I remember there was no road going out there. It was in an area of Miami called the Redlands, and everyone would make this can't be right. Oh, that's not right. Is that right? Oh my God. This is right. This has changed. Wow. No, this is not right. What am I doing wrong here? Bear with me for a moment. Oh, was it avenue or street? Maybe it was street. I mean, that's the same, isn't it? Where's Chrome Avenue? Going on a little. 186th. There's 184th. Let's go out further, 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 further. Where's Chrome Avenue? Man, this has changed a lot. This is very exciting for everybody, I'm sure. Oh, you know how I know how to find it? Oh, I was 89th. It's actually 172nd. Jesus, I suck. I know how to find it because it's a block away from ZWF Miami, which is the Zoological Wildlife Foundation in Miami, which anyone who watched Tiger King, you know that Mario Tabro, the inspiration for Scarface, owns that place. So this is about a block from that. And it doesn't look like you can get Street View out there yet. Can you? Maybe not. Can you? Go, do it. Is there? Can you do it? Well, oh, you can. Okay. Oh, yeah. Wow, this has changed a lot. This has changed a lot. All right. Let's see if we can see this. Is this going to work? I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to give it a shot. Where's my desktop scene? I just realized I was muted that whole time. Terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Anyway, what I was showing you is um, where my girlfriend lived, which what you were seeing there was the Zoological Wildlife Foundation. And then what you see here was the house where I spent this gate. I remember spending a lot of time just waiting at this gate. There were lots of Rottweilers, and there was a lot more vegetation back then. Looks like they just took it all down. It was much more private. But anyway, like even a house like this, right, which is pretty much all concrete. Hey, what's with that blurry part? Pretty much all concrete. The roof got torn off from Hurricane Andrew, and the house was totally destroyed, and so was the barn. The foundation still stayed, but there were these areas that were what they called country walk at the time, and they were areas that looked cute, houses that looked cute, but they were essentially like just pressed particle board, leaned up against an A-frame or something. Well, nobody lived. It was bought by the city. It serves as like I don't know, some kind of some facility for the city. I have no idea what. No, this is not. This is where this is where I would drive when I was 16 years old. Yeah, that's broadly considered Miami, but Miami is so like large landmass wise, like the areas that you can talk about when you refer to Miami. Anyway, what was my point? Yeah, I was tying hurricanes back to this sort of idea that the horror that was Andrew meant that everybody afterwards was kind of questioning the stability of the home that they lived in. Yeah, earthquakes are really, really frightening. I've only been through one. Well, actually, there was an earthquake in Maryland that I felt, but I've only been through one earthquake of significance when I was in California, and even that was like, it was only enough to like freak me the hell out. But I can't imagine being through like a major earthquake. For some reason, a hurricane feels less threatening to me than an earthquake. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's because, an earthquake is literally shaking the core, your foundation, whereas a hurricane is, coming from above. It feels like maybe there's a limit to what it can do, but an earthquake feels like it could just open up and take you into the pit of hell. So I don't know. And then of course there's the whole aftershock fear and anxiety that would come after an earthquake. So, colorful dreams. You prefer earthquakes to hurricanes. I could see that. Hurricanes, hurricanes have this thing where it's like there's a lot of threat. There's a lot of, you get this warning. Is it going to happen? Isn't it going to happen? It may hit you. So everybody go out to the grocery store and everybody buy up all of the aisles of water and paper towels and toilet paper, and especially bottled water. Everybody buy generators. Ooh, I like this voice quills. The world is hungry, waiting to swallow us in 1,000 ways. The night is dark and full of terrors. Oh, you meant the opposite. Yeah, I feel like I would prefer hurricanes to earthquakes, but right. And I don't know. So, Carolyn, like you never know when you don't get any warning. And I guess I'm not sure if I feel like that would be better or worse. Olevi's back. Welcome back, Olevi. Buy bottles of generators. Having a generator was the thing. Having a generator that could power your whole house. That was the thing back then. I had like a 2,000 watt generator. I could do like a portable AC unit and a couple of lights. I like this cousin. Almost as horrible. Oh no, QF tornadoes. No, I don't know. What is the most terrifying? An earthquake, a tornado, or a hurricane? Having been through more than one really bad hurricane, a tornado still feels scarier to me. And an earthquake still feels scarier to me. The bad thing about, like I said, like you get no warning with earthquakes, but you know, the problem with hurricanes is you get warnings all the time. And so you get put into this panic mode because you're in the cone, and just like they're doing with, you know, trickling out this information of bodies being found in this tragic Surfside collapse, the news milks it as much as it possibly can. If you're in that cone, you're going to get, you know, every 30 minutes, you're going to get the weatherman telling you, updating the cone and saying, you're still in the cone. And even if you're not in the cone could shift. So don't you dare turn off that television. Don't you dare think that you're out of danger for one moment. Be in a heightened state of anxiety for the next week. And then when that hurricane misses you, don't worry, there's 3 more developing in the eastern Atlantic. And a lot of them being essentially like slingshotted over Africa out into the Atlantic. Never ends. And now with this heat wave, I wonder what the activity is going to be this hurricane season, which I believe has started already, hasn't it? And didn't we got through the alphabet pretty quick last year, which, I mean, the hurricane that I remember most was Andrew. That's an A. The hurricane that I remember most people remember most is Katrina. It's a K. What? Why are we in, like, you know, B prime or you know, beta C or whatever it is? Start going through the alpha to omega. Good God. Ooh, there. So I've seen water funnels. Those are really cool to see. I've seen like a tiny funnel cloud, but I haven't seen one that like felt like it might be coming towards me, or I felt like I would eventually get. Oh, this is a great idea, PG. Let's name them after corporations based on their contribution. The level of, how they have category 1 to 5. The category could be based on how much the company contributes to, what the carbon footprint is of the company, or how much ecological damage that company has done. This is an Exxon level hurricane. This is an Enron level hurricane. Oh yeah. I think are you talking about Katrina? Katrina was horrible, not so much for the storm itself, but because of the flooding, right? Sandy was a hurricane, I believe. Oxy. No, but I do, in hurricanes, I do go out if the eye passes over me, which has happened twice. I will definitely go out during the eye and be like, oh, this is so interesting. Sometimes you can see the wall, the band of clouds. Literally, it kind of looks like a wall of clouds in the sky. Pretty fascinating. It's fun. So what has everybody been up to? What's going on in the world? What have I been... Let me tell you what I've been... apart from my horrible scooter blunder. So when I'm going on these scoots, Scott scoots, I'll often, have a audiobook on. And as I get thoughts, as things come to me, I'll jot them down, whether they be video ideas or generally like philosophical nonsense. Write those down. And then sometimes I don't really understand. It's kind of like when you wake up in the middle of the night and you write something down and then you look at it in the morning and you don't know why you wrote it. So I have a few things here. Did I read this one out already? I may have. Spatial distance as analogous to temporal distance. And I usually dictate these, so it is grammatically not correct. So it's interesting at the end of life when you look back on life that it seems so short. The beginning of life when you're looking forward seems so long. Similar when looking at distant objects. The distance between two distant objects relative to the distance from where you are looking is very small, and thus their respective differences is not significant, but as you approach those same objects, the difference between their distances might be very large indeed. You only sense that difference with being proximate to those objects. Yeah, so if you're a mile away from two things that are 100 yards away from each other, their relative distance spatially seems insignificant. But when you're 3 feet away from something that's 100 yards away from something else, that space seems huge. That is that kind of relative distance idea comes into play when you're talking about camera sensors and focus planes, because people are always talking about wide-angle lenses distorting people's faces, but a wide-angle lens doesn't distort your face at all. What distorts your face is when the distance between one part of your face and another part of your face starts to become statistically significant when compared from the distance from one part of your face to the camera sensor and another part of your face to the camera sensor. So I'm sitting here at like roughly an 85 millimeter equivalent lens. I'm about 7 feet from the camera. Less than that. Maybe 6 feet from the camera. So my nose is, an inch closer to the sensor plane than my eyes are. So it's fairly easy, even at a wide aperture, which right now I think I'm at like two. I'm actually focused. I've been out of focus most of this time. But the focal plane becomes larger. Oops. And the distortion is very low because the relative distance from the camera sensor it assumes my face is pretty much all in one spot, all in one plane. The difference between the tip of my nose and my ear is not that significant when I'm at this distance from the camera sensor. You put a wide angle lens on a camera, and in order for you to have any sort of size in the frame, you have to be significantly closer to the camera. And therefore, if you have a nose like mine, it starts to become a significant factor. And when you turn your head like this, it seems like your nose is like out here, and you could focus on, your eye, and your ear is completely out of focus, etc. So I guess applying that perspective to life, but I'm always looking for like analogies, and I think I feel like analogies are dangerous because it's easy to latch on to an analogy and to try and make it work. And it may do more harm than good, because if the analogy ends up not being right, if it ends up being one of those beautiful theories killed by a tiny little fact, you might have this bias towards that analogy, and you might try and make it work. Whereas if that analogy didn't exist, you wouldn't care, right? It wouldn't matter to you. You wouldn't be holding on to this flawed theory because you have this analogy that fits so well, and you just really want to make that way of seeing the world work. Q, don't do that. You just bought a house. We should be doing a fund for you to get a housewarming gift. This should be inverted. Bad Q. But that's kind. I appreciate it. I do feel a little more, well, I'm obligated anyway, right? Because like I said, I'm not going to be able to do much scooting. Well, first of all, I'm not going to be able to get on a scooter probably for a week. That's my guess. I couldn't even lift the scooter at this point. The batteries are heavy. So, yeah, it's going to be a little while till I can get on the darn scooter. And I did already order a helmet. So, but I do appreciate that, Q. That's sweet. What was I talking about? I was talking about the analogies of trying to get analogies to work when they don't. Everybody probably did this. I probably talked about this. I remember when I had what I was convinced was a genius revelation in my pre-adolescent mind when I saw the resemblance between the subatomic structure electrons orbiting neutrons, protons, and the solar system. And I was like, oh my God, every solar system must be an atom or subatomic particle in a much greater universe, and it goes both ways, and that has to be the way it is. Like, how could these things be so similar and that not be true, right? Which just totally throws the intrinsic importance of size when it comes to everything, fluid dynamics. It just, you have to completely ignore physics, not to mention a million other things, the speed of light. It just, anyone with more than a very young person's understanding of astronomy or physics would immediately see 1,000 problems with that. And the real sort of rational response to that is just like, it's interesting how these parallel structures, like, the golden ratio and Fibonacci sequences and all these different kind of structures, like, there are parallels between the way certain things arrange themselves. Oh, Katerina, good night. Wow. Yeah. Please, I hope you're able to sleep. But that should be the response to that, right? It should be like, oh, it is interesting how this is the case. It shouldn't be like, no, I want every atom to be a solar system, and I want every electron to be a planet, and every nucleus to be a sun. Nucleus, every bundle of protons and neutrons to be a sun. It's the danger of a compelling analogy, especially to a young mind. And that's what our minds do, right? Our minds constantly look for patterns, and then gravitate towards those patterns. What else do I have here? How close did we come? Yeah, I would like somebody to figure out how close we came to COVID being essentially a world-ending event. Like, how many shifts in nucleotides would it take for the COVID-19 virus to be more virulent, to be able to evade vaccination immunity, to be more deadly, and to be truly airborne? I know there's some debate right now about whether it was airborne or not. And I totally understand. Oh, hey, Flaglo. Good to see you. I totally understand, like, there is this kind of natural defense mechanisms that viruses have, and that the more virulent they are, the more effective they are in killing their host, the less effective they are in perpetuating their own spread. So, a good virus does not kill its host, at least not quickly, if it wants to survive. I'm sorry, I don't mean to suggest that the pandemic is over. However, and the Delta variant is a great example. So that Delta variant is a great example of, like, when we were talking about, and everybody's talking about this, not just us, but I know we have talked about, well, people don't want to get vaccinated because, they're of a certain age where COVID doesn't hurt them, but every walking petri dish is an opportunity for this virus to mutate. Blur. Insides. Who? Oh, hi, Hocus Pocus. I don't think I know you. Yeah, so the Delta variant is going to wreak havoc. I think you meant wreak, but yeah, that was a typo. Let me. This is annoying me. I gotta refocus you. Oh, don't you not connect? You connect to that camera, you little. All right, I'm gonna have to do it here. Focus. All right, that's better. That is better. We're on high detail on both of these cameras. You're not in focus either. However, you don't have a electronically focusable lens, so there's not much I can do about that. Want some more red? Let's make it redder. Let's make it less redder. Let's put it back to where it was. Let's mess around with all kinds of stuff. Ooh, the gamma. Up that gamma. What are we doing? What the hell is going on? Ah, we're back. We're back to normality. Voice quills. Who are you referring to? I'm not sure where you live. Oh, you're British. Okay. Well, I am an Anglophile. I don't want anything bad to happen to our special relationship friends. This did not go back to normal color. No, it did not. That's better. That's bizarre. That's bizarre. Because it only shows 2 digits of significance after the decimal point. But it actually responds to less than that. Let's see, I just made it greener. Redder, greener. But I'm not actually changing the numerical value at all. Man, if you're gonna actually change the value of something, you need to show the significant digits to represent that change. Who's talking about Nerevar? Oh, I didn't know this. I didn't know that Voice Quills was Lady Nerevar, or I forgot. Man, I've wondered where Lady Nerevar was. What other notes do I have here? Here's another one. So, why hasn't art evolved? That was something I was thinking about, and I don't know if it's true. It was just a thought. Like we have things that are unequivocally now better than they were. No one would look at medicine 100 years ago and say medicine back then was better than it is now. I don't think. And yet, you look back at Michelangelo, you look back at the great artists, and, it's difficult to say that anything being done in modern times is comparable, or better, right? Like at the very least, like post-Renaissance, let's say, after three-point perspective was discovered, and we had, the great painters, from then on, it seems like we've sort of reached out in different ways, but we haven't necessarily evolved down any one path in a way where you look back on, art that's more than 100 years old and are like, oh, definitely not. It still kind of holds its place today. That's not a great thought. They're not all great thoughts. Some of them are bad thoughts. But the question that I have here is, right, like, yeah, what about supporting artists? Like, we have no infrastructure or very little infrastructure, and I'm talking mostly about the United States here, for supporting artists. Like, what do we do for music, right? What are you gonna do? You're gonna busk? We have a sort of machine for churning out the music that we mistake for culture or culturally significant music. And we don't foster art the way that it used to be fostered. And this is not a back in my day, because in my day it was just, it was also bad. I'm talking about, way back in the day when when essentially you had people who, that was their occupation, was they were artists. Now, it could be said that, like, this might point towards more equitable distribution of wealth, because when we had more monarchies, it was easier for there to be people who were funded by said monarchy, and they could basically just devote their life, to the arts, and they wouldn't have to do anything. What do we got here? Somebody's talking about Peggle? Oh my God. Oh my God, Peggle. Oh, Levy, you feel the same about philosophy? Yeah. I mean, I consider philosophy art. And I'm not, like, who are the great modern philosophers? I don't really know any. Who was the last great philosopher? I'm looking at my bookshelf. E.M. Ciorian might still be alive. I'm not sure. I don't know that he's a great philosopher. Douglas Hofstadter? Maybe. I mean, Nietzsche was relatively recent. Freud, if you consider Freud a philosopher, which a lot of people do, and Jung. I do think, and I am biased because I recently read a lot of Irving Yalom, I do think the line between philosophy and psychology is pretty blurry. I remember Peggle, and I remember Pachinko, which is what Peggle was based on. But I remember wasting a lot of time playing Peggle. Oh yeah, Slavov's still kicking. I'm glad someone mentioned Slavov. Oh yeah. Foucault's dead, isn't he? I have conflicting feelings about Foucault because mostly because he and Chomsky don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but I do love the way he writes. Roland Barthes. So of course, I'm aware of this, Pavi. I know that. I know this. And I know that, like, a lot of philosophers don't find their audience until they're sort of their day has flown, as Nick Drake would say. Fame is but a fruit tree, so very unsound, it can never flourish till its stalk is in the ground. Men of fame never find their way till the time has flown far from their dying day. Yeah, but it's hard to argue. There were a lot of philosophers who were very, I think philosophy has just been like deemed unimportant by writ large. A lot of philosophers were, considered the sages of their day. And nobody say, like Jordan, well, someone said Jordan Peterson. It's tough to. Noam Chomsky is when I wake up in the morning and I look at my alerts, I'm like, oh God, when is that message gonna come? When am I gonna see that Noam Chomsky is no longer with us? Yeah, that's not great. I mean, Schopenhauer was a piece of shit, really. Like, and yet I can't help but I don't forgive him. And what the fuck? Cosby is out? They let Cosby out from what seemed like a technicality to me. Bill Cosby is now a free man. Because a prosecutor had made a deal with him at some point to only use the testimony of one particular victim, but they ended up referencing other victims to establish a pattern of behavior because there was a pattern of behavior, right? And now the cause is loose. I mean, it's not. So if we're talking about now, there we get into another weird thing. Oh my gosh! Here, just in. I want to go back to Cosby, but this just in. Alan Weisselberg, who is the CFO of the Trump Organization, has just been indicted on tax crimes. We knew it was coming, and we knew it was probably coming today. Wow. Oh, they're not related to the Stormy Daniels payments. The Trump Organization has denied any charges of wrongdoing. They've called it a witch hunt and fake news. Anyway, so yeah, it's weird. So we have this idea of prison, the intent of prison. Well, there's two schools of thought, right? It is as punishment or as rehabilitation. And it seems like we try and sell a lot the idea of prison as rehabilitation, which is just a fucking load of bullshit, right? Hey, Maddie, how are you doing? It's good to see you. Oh yeah, and Donald Rumsfeld died. Yeah, I mean he was almost 90, right? So whatever. Bill Cosby is 83, right? So it's not like his chances of recidivism are very low, but that doesn't, that And then there's also, I don't know, there's I, all kinds of thoughts run through my head when I think, uh, about this stuff. Oh yeah, Pavi, right? Like this wasn't, and not that it. Well, so this goes back to Nietzsche saying, right? Like I've often laughed at those who thought themselves good merely because they had no claws, right? Bill Cosby did not need to do what he was doing. He did it because it was a compulsion, um, and that points towards a more deranged mind, in my opinion, than someone who does it because they they can't get that kind of fulfillment in any other way. It's completely wrong, on both sides of it. It's completely wrong, but there are like levels of subtlety there, in my mind anyway, similar to the levels of subtlety you have where um, uh, consensual relations with someone who's of a certain age is considered pedophilia, right? Legally pedophilia, but then if you go down more, then it's like it gets worse and worse, right? The lower you go, and it could be argued, and I'm not arguing this, but it could be argued that like somebody, well, for instance, right, you have cases of 18-year-olds who have consensual sex with 17-year-olds and who are charged with statutory rape, right? That doesn't seem right. And it certainly doesn't seem like pedophilia to me. And then there's this kind of like gray area of, well, what about a 20-year-old who has relationships with a 17-year-old? Like, there's a really clear line to me between that and even a 25-year-old who has relations with a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old, right? And then there's just really varying degrees of psychosis going on there, and there's lots of different problems that are manifesting there, apart from what might be considered from a psychological point of view, might be considered normal urges, right? Normal manifestations of sexual urges that are not allowed by society, versus abnormal urges, which are also not allowed by society, but are also considered like aberrant psychologically. So. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had the lawyers that he needed to go through the processes that he needed to finally get one of the prosecutors who it was probably a state prosecutor. I don't know off the top of my head, but my guess is that, you put a state prosecutor up against like a private lawyer being paid, huge amounts of money, and the state prosecutor is going to lose most times. You put a state prosecutor up against a state defender, and the scales shift the other way, right? Yeah, Q, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop with that. What I'm saying is, I guess I could sum up what I'm saying is that there are levels of wrong with everything, right? Yeah, it's very, very difficult. Very difficult. But it is very unfortunate when you kind of see and I know I talk about this a lot, and so I'm sorry for bringing this up again and again and again, but it really like sticks in my craw when we see how many millions of people in the U.S. are incarcerated, and how many of those people have never had a trial. How many of those people have pled because they were essentially browbeaten into pleading, because they thought if they didn't plead, they would get a much harsher sentence. So you have a lot of innocent people especially young people, especially young urban people, especially young black people in America, who are coerced into accepting reduced sentences, playing the odds, because they already know, like the very system itself is like, look, you're not getting a fair shake here, and we're telling you that. And if you decide to go to court, you're not gonna get a fair shake there either, right? So better take this unfair shake rather than roll the dice on that unfair shake, because that unfair shake, you could end up in jail for the rest of your life, or you could even be, sentenced to death. We have again, to talk about Miami, there's that huge prison in Miami that it's a jail. Sorry, not a prison, it's a jail. And the whole point there is like nobody in that jail has been convicted of the crime that they're accused of, but there are people who stay there for years and they've never been convicted. What is that? Like, something is broken, and it's broken on both sides. It's broken on, the problem was created obviously by the justice system, but it's also then the game is being played by criminals, or not even criminals, but people who are gaming the justice system. So it's just, it's a fucking wreck. And it really, here's what annoys me. Okay, here we go. And I'm really going on a tangent here, but so what? Here's what really annoys me, or one of the many things that really annoys me. When I hear things like somebody talking about a transgender woman entering a sport and competing against non-transgender women, and people are going, that's so unfair, that shouldn't be allowed, this is wrong, this is the result of like a bunch of snowflakes being raised from birth who are willing to take umbrage at the smallest thing, and everything has to be, within the system that we have, some shit doesn't work very well, right? And what seems to me in those cases, like the giant thing that people, and this is Jordan, I feel like Jordan Peterson falls into this trap a lot. Maybe it's not a trap, but it seems like a trap to me. It's like all these things are assuming that cultural norms are not arbitrary, like that we didn't create these things, and that we therefore cannot change them. And so there seems to be this a priori assumption going into all these arguments, which is, given the system that is created and is etched in stone, and we can't change these things that are fundamental. These things that are fundamental, these rules that were created by white dudes, for hundreds and hundreds of years, who, even if they were wonderfully progressive for their time, cannot avoid implicit biases, cannot avoid familiarity bias, cannot avoid similarity bias, cannot avoid, the biases against the other. They just can't. So these people, a lot of these people, I would guess, and I'm giving the benefit of the doubt here, went into this thinking, well, we want this to be fair to everybody. But I've run into this many times, and I think lots of people run into this. The thing about an unconscious bias is it's unconscious, right? So, and the problem, or one of the other problems with the unconscious bias then, is once you've arrived at your biased outcome, you have righteousness on your side because you don't realize your own bias. So, oh, good night, Maddie. hope you're able to sleep well. But anyway, so I guess it's sort of annoying to me. Well, and I'm privileged that I can just be like, oh well, it's kind of annoying to me, whereas this is much more affecting to other people than it is to me. But where we're just like, well, we have to. Nobody's even saying, why don't we just start from zero? Like, why don't we just figure this out? Why can't we flip the table and say, let's not assume anything a priori, and let's actually do this with, and this, it's so weird because like people also talk about like diversity and inclusion, like it's like I hear people talk about it like it's bad, like affirmative action, or there's these pejorative terms that people use for like, no, it's, I don't know, man. I'm losing the thread a bit. I guess I'm just. Well, this is true, Ms., right? So the people who created the system, right? There's no incentive for someone benefiting from a system. There's no incentive for someone who benefits from a system to change the system, really, right? Unless they really feel like they're driven by a real sense of moral outrage. And there are people who have that, but those people are few and far between. Right. Yeah, it's just like, well, we can't even go there. It's every argument starts with, well, this stuff is totally off the table, right? And if this stuff is off the table, then we have to talk within these boxes that we've already created, and we have to argue, within, as if these boxes were mandated by an authority that is not human. And I mean, it's been it's been pretty thoroughly disproven. So, like in as far as transgenderism goes, at least from what I've read, and I have not read enough, but it's been pretty thoroughly disproven that the idea of like a male brain and a female brain is bullshit. It's been pretty thoroughly shown that like a lot of the studies that were done that showed early affinities for spatial reasoning, early affinities for the color pink versus the color blue, they tried to justify via evolution, that a lot of these things were subject to biases in the studies, right? And a lot of those biases were totally unconscious, right? Just not, it's so hard. Like you're born into a world that exists a certain way, and up until a certain age, you don't question it at all. And through your entire life, there's still, for most people, and I think for everyone, there's going to be these blind spots of things that's just like, well, that is an ineffable truth. Like that thing cannot be moved, right? And what those things are different for different people. Oh yeah, Q, I saw you mention this. Oh yeah, and voice quills, you're right. Yep. Exactly. And so you have things like trying to account for that, like in boxing, you have weight classes or whatever, trying to account for certain differences that may or may not be genetic, and maybe, again, these are rules that like we come up with for fucking games that we're playing. These are games. And I realize there's a lot of money on the line, but essentially we're talking about games. And critical race theory right there. Yeah, there you go. That's also like really, really infuriating, because that just goes back to the whole colorblind kind of thing. Like, oh, I don't see color. If you see color, you're racist, which is bullshit. Like, see color, see ethnicity, see all the differences, right? And recognize, you know, what shape the holes are in the society that you have created, and notice that the society you created, the holes in your society, wow, they just seem to kind of be the same shape that you are, don't they? What a funny coincidence that your society happened to come up with these holes that you fit perfectly into, and that person doesn't fit perfectly into them. The people who were brought over here against their will, they don't fit perfectly into these holes. Gosh, that's a shame. Well, we definitely can't change the shape of the holes, so what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to address that, right? Because the holes are... Anyway. I was not, like, prepped to talk about this, so I don't want to... I'm really kind of speaking off the cuff here. Yeah, Benjamin Franklin, right? Yeah, I mean, you can find this in so many things, and that's why it was so infuriating when I heard Jordan Peterson debating someone whose name I don't remember, and he sort of insouciantly called out, like, tell me a power structure that's created that favors white males. Like, show me evidence of a patriarchy. I don't believe a patriarchy exists. Show me evidence of the patriarchy. I don't want to talk about Jordan Peterson anymore. I don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. Well, I just don't want to stick my foot in my mouth. But I don't know if that's 100% true, Leah. Sometimes we'll come on having read up specifically on a subject to talk about that subject. There you go, Lady Nerevar, right? Yeah, the whole point of a Band-Aid is, which I was wearing several until recently. But yeah, that's just, and so to feel like that doesn't infiltrate in insidious and innocuous, and it doesn't matter, right? It's like pouring water over, just there are all these cracks that things flow into, and to say, like, point out every one of those, it's going to be really difficult to do. Somebody could certainly, you want to do an audit, you want to go back and kind of like point out all the areas in which things were designed for, created for, and I'm talking about like physical designs, systemic designs, educational curriculum designs. All of this was done by people who were immersed in their own culture, and regardless of how altruistic they were trying to be, they weren't going to get it, right? Like, I don't get it, right? I couldn't get it, and that's one of the reasons why diversity and inclusion is so important. Is that I can't. Well, that's not one of the reasons why it's important. Really, it has nothing to do with me. But like, and white people shouldn't be making all of these rules. But even if they were trying to, they couldn't. Right? They couldn't be fair about it because they could not escape their own unconscious biases. Right on, slim, thick, skinny queen. Slim, thick, skinny queen. Keep saying it. Slim, thick, skinny queen. If you're able to go through your life and it's not a thing to you, and you're like, what is everybody so upset about? Then that's evidence of the fact that, has nothing to do. Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it. Because I was called Scotty Potty when I was young. So I'm not a big fan of Scotty. Don't love it. Don't love it. Don't like it. What's weird is, like, I really, really disliked the name Edward when I was younger. And now I'm kind of like, well, I kind of prefer Edward to Scott. Feels a little more probably feels a little more establishment, regal, right? Formal. Gives me an air of legitimacy I did nothing to deserve. So, good night, Ezra. It's good to see you. Your brother's name in Spanish is Scott. So all of my Cuban friends always called me Escop. So I don't even know what Scott is in Spanish, because to me it was Escopi or Escop. Hey, Escop. Lo que no mata engorda, Escop. Ven aquí. Hey, flaco. Eres flaco. So an interesting tidbit about that band that I was in. There was not someone named Ed or someone named, well, I guess I was named Ed, but had nothing to do with it. Matus. Ed Matus was somebody else in the Miami scene back then in the 90s. And our guitar player was just like trying to get to upset that guy, like to kind of mess with him. So it was like, for a while, every time we played, it was Ed Matus's something. So it was Ed Matus's halitosis, Ed Matus's, just stuff to kind of tick him off. And then Ed Matus's struggle just got it. Oh, no, my Spanish is not that good. I can understand it fairly well if it's spoken a little bit slowly. But I mean, I know, like, I just heard it a lot because I was around it a lot. So I picked up the inflection and a lot of the sayings, and a lot of the vulgarities, especially. But I don't. If I speak it, I'm gonna get like a lot of the forms wrong. I get voy instead of ir, or but I do say bite instead of bistec. It's raining again here. How do you all feel about next week setting up reading some stories from people? I would love to do that. I think that'd be a good idea. Yes, I definitely did. Like, everything I all the Spanish that I learned was basically cute. I mean, I I think that was prevalent. Like even Colombians and Peruvians and Puerto Ricans. I think most people like started talking in the using the Cuban accent in Miami. So I'd be interested in knowing who would be up for reading a story, Jack and Ori. If you're up for reading a story, let me know. You can let me know here or email. Here you can email. I don't even have this set up. This is how. I can look at this again. Let's try and make Caroline feel bad. Or we can look at the STEM Barbie again. That's always good for a chuckle. There you go. Unconscious bias, probably. Their intent, the intent of the STEM Barbie was to address the fact that there weren't, to try and address the inequality of toys that would breed an interest in the STEM science, or the STEM vocations. And in doing so, albeit good intentioned, they created something that was horribly biased and probably had nothing, was not, there's no way that women designed this. Like, it just, they were probably involved. I'm sure there were women involved, but it was probably a dude who was like, yeah, jewelry. What are things that, what do women like to do? Well, they like to wash clothes, and they like shoes, and they like having clothes. They like to lounge. So maybe like a couch or something. No, well, maybe a hammock then. And they like shiny stuff. So let's have a place where they can put all their shiny things. That's what women like to do. They also like to just like stand there with a flask. That is not an Erlenmeyer flask. That looks more like a boiler, right? Or I forget what that's called, actually. Anyway, perfect example. Exactly, hocus pocus. People don't know they're in a box. Acknowledging that you have a box is the first step. Anyway, so if you're interested in reading a story next week, you know where to reach me here. I think I've gotten a couple already, Lisa, Shobana, and then I've gone through most of the stories already. I have a couple more still. And so far they're all great. I mean, I really like them. So, and it seems like people, I'm saying this, and the next one I read will probably be vulgar, but people seem to actually get in the spirit of it, and they weren't trying to just be sensationalist or provoke a reaction. And the other thing I want to do is I want to start doing like live ASMR on the other channel, which is why I brought this mic here. Because I'm not doing, like, I haven't put a video up in a while. I'm not like feeling really inspired to do anything with it. But I think if it were live, although most people don't like live ASMR, that tends to put people off, but I am of the opinion that like most people who do live ASMR do not have the proper setup. And I've spent quite a while, quite a long time iterating on the setup here. So let me know if you think live ASMR would be you're talking about the werewolf one? Yeah. Well, that was like 45 minutes long. Wasn't that long. I remember there was a period where I would make a video. Oh, talk to you later. Have a good night. I'm not sure whether to call you Lady Nerevar or Voice Quills. I will call you Voice Quills until I hear differently. Unless I hear differently. Hope you have a good night. There was a time when I was editing videos and they always came out to an hour. And it was always like I would edit it and I would just kind of look at where it naturally fell, and it would be like an hour and 8 seconds, or it would be 59 minutes and 53 seconds. And then I would be like, oh, well, I'm going to make it exactly an hour. And so I had a lot of videos that came out that were exactly 1 hour. And that wasn't planned, except that it just sort of happened that I would run out of steam at about the hour mark. And then in post, I would just sort of make sure that it was exactly an hour. Sometimes that meant padding it out with music at the end. Sometimes that meant, oh, wait, I got something I want to play for you guys. I'm sorry, for you all, not you guys. See what's going on? Arte, how are you doing? You came here just at the end. So I was playing around with the iPad and GarageBand, which I hadn't really done, because I have Ableton and I have a bunch of stuff. So I tend to, when I record stuff, I tend to, do it using sort of more professional equipment. But I was like, I always like have just ideas, and then I'll record sketches or whatever, and I may follow up on them and I may not. But I was really impressed, and maybe it sounds like crap, I don't know. But I was really impressed. I'm amazed that you can do this with an iPad now. Let's see if I can get it real quick. I mean, it doesn't seem... Is this it? Is this what I called it? Can I download this? What can I do? Download. I'm not set up to like listen to stuff, so I'm gonna play it for you, and I'm not gonna be sure that it's playing or that it's the right thing. It's probably mixed horribly. Does this work like that? Oh, it's thundering again. It's not opening, probably because I named it. Yes, I want to do it. What? All right. I don't know how this is going to sound, or if this is going to sound like crap or not. But I was just amazed that like you could do this all with just one guitar, literally in bed with an iPad, No external microphones. No nothing. Just an iPad. That's not letting me add it. Well, of course you're not letting me add it. Because you're a jerk. Oh, bummer. No? Why you gotta do me like that? You can't. You've been so good to me in the past. No, it won't. It won't let me select an MP4, which is very bizarre. I mean, MP4s are pretty standard, aren't they? I think they are. Well, I'll try to get ready for next time. But I was impressed. Can leave it at that. I was very impressed that I could record, 12 tracks with a good amount of effects on them, and get something that sounded kind of like, it's very similar to like, if I had played it, you'd be like, oh, that sounds a lot like the other stuff that you play. And you wouldn't be wrong. Right? It's very, it was based off a classical riff, playing on a classical guitar, and then just layering stuff on top of it. Kind of a blonde redhead kind of feel to it. But yeah, please email if you're interested in reading a story next week. And we will do that, and hopefully I will have my mobility back and some of my energy back, and I'll be able to talk longer. And I hope you all have a good week. I'm sorry about the song thing not working. I don't even have my guitar in here right now, and I can't even really play. Like, I can lift it with this arm and put it here, but once I start trying to move this arm, like if I have to do, no, it's difficult to play guitar right now, but hopefully that goes away soon. All right, y'all, thank you for coming by. I appreciate it. Remember, lo que no mata engorda y es una cosa no se importa. Let's see, what else? What other Spanish sayings do I know? I know some really vulgar ones. If you want to, that involve the word chupa, which I will not bother saying. See you all soon, and have a good rest of the week. And I will wear a helmet. I don't know if I'm going to stream Cyberpunk. I've been playing Cyberpunk. Been playing it. Thank you for all the feel better wishes. I've been playing Cyberpunk and I've actually been enjoying it. So I don't know if it... I might when I get to... I want to get to the point where I got to in the previous streams, and then maybe I'll stream it. But I'm actually having fun playing Cyberpunk, for whatever that's worth to anyone who cares. All right, good night, love you all, and I'll talk to you soon.